Right, this is the second part about replacing the old wood beds with these nice metal beds from Northern Tool. First thing I did is I did have those first two beds installed and filled in the previous video, so I figured this was a couple weeks ago, and I decided I was going to put some shallots in this bed. I did move those green onions you can see there from one of the old wood beds further down, and I just decided to fill the rest of this bed with shallots. So I continued on. Originally, Northern had sent me 6 of the beds to try, and I continued on just kind of removing one wood bed at a time and moving the compost and dirt into the other beds, and just setting them up, going down the aisle. Then I decided I was going to change my mind about this area, and originally I was just going to replace the 6 of them in the front there, and I decided to order 2 more from Northern Tool and replace that back platform there, which originally I was going to put a small greenhouse on, but I've changed my mind on that. So now I'm going to have 8 of the beds total. And one thing I found out is I ordered 2, and then I went back and I was going to order a couple more, and they were sold out. So this seems to be a hot year for items like this, seeds and raised beds. They disappeared quickly. So I got the beds in place, and then I'm going to keep a little bit of sawdust in this one pathway here, and I decided to put some dividers in there, and took some old piece of the 2x4 and some these are fiberglass fenced electric fence rods that you get at Tractor Supply. They're like under $1 a piece, and I cut them up, and I like to use them for the ground stakes whenever you're holding any kind of landscaping stuff in place. So they're 4 feet long when you buy them, and usually what I do is I just cut them into 4 1-foot pieces. And there's the first one there, and just gonna go work on the next one there. And that back there is coming out now. But this is what I do. I cut them into 4 1-foot pieces and just sand a little bit of a point on them. And I've had better luck using them than like big nails and stuff that just kind of rust into the ground. So I've got a 7/16 drill bit that works perfect, and just pound them in. They get the job done. So I got the divider in place there on most of the beds, and I started ripping apart some of that platform back there that's going to be used in another location. And then all of a sudden, during this video, the time frame, we did have several snowstorms that came and went. Be snowy, blizzardy one day, and the next day it would be clear. And then I decided I had this dog park that I had built. We called it a dog park. We used to have a Jack Russell when we first moved in, and he would chase animals and disappear for days, so I had to do something to keep him fenced in when he was loose. And there he is. He loved to go camping. He'd jump in the bag and be ready to go with you when you told him we were going. He was an extremely smart dog. And there's the shot of him at, he took a trip out to Sturgis, South Dakota with us when we were young and did a lot of traveling. But anyhow, it had gotten to the point where it was getting tough to take care of, and there was a lot of extra weed whacking and hand mowing and stuff. So I decided to just kind of rip all the fencing out and open it up. One of the biggest problems was I was trying to save everything to reuse down by the garden, and I used these staples, 18 gauge staples, to install the fence, and I put 9 staples in each board, so that did take me a while to get them out, but at least the boards remained undamaged, and they were a treated board that if you took it easy getting them apart, they were all savable. So I'm going to be using these down for finishing up in the garden area some. So I did spend a couple days cleaning all this up, taking all the fence down, trying to do it carefully, and trying to save all the components of it for use down by the garden, because they basically all were pretty good pressure treated lumber at the time. So that was just a little job, and luckily I had put all the big stuff together with screws. And one thing I found out is that these DeWalt square drive bits really stink. They were good for about 2 of those long screws coming out. And finally I had some Milwaukee, the Shockwave bits that basically last forever. It seems like they don't wear out. So, if you're taking apart anything with big old screws that are, rusted in place and stuff, those Milwaukee bits will outlast the DeWalt bit 100 times. So I pulled it out, and actually this one side here did have raised strawberry beds built into it that I had to rip out and stuff. And there you can see I'm starting to get everything opened up there. And this was another one of those sunny days that we didn't get too many of. And there's all the fence boards on those plastic sawhorses I found on clearance. I can't believe how much they actually hold. And there's the 5 pounds of staples that I pulled out. Now I did run into one fence post out of all of them that was rotted off. I don't know why. Probably had a defect in the pressure treated. And it was time to remove the post, and you can see I put them all down 3 feet. So it does help to have a little compact tractor when you're doing stuff like this. It really makes it easy to pick up and remove and yank things out, because I tried yanking one out by hand, but there was just no way that I could get it moving. Kind of like it's real wet now, and it's kind of like a suction from the mud down in there. So this made it it turned it into a 5-minute job. It would have taken me probably days to get out. These little old compact tractors really do a good job around the yard helping you out. And this is one of those jobs that I was going to do last year, but I never actually got around to it because of all the rain and crummy weather that we had. So, and you can, pretty much now the grass is starting to take off and grow. So I've been cutting that every couple of days too, trying to, keep busy between the snow, the rain, the grass mowing when it's dry, and a lot goes on in the spring. So this really isn't part of the garden, but I just thought I'd show you that I'm trying to reclaim all this material now to use for around the garden next, to finish up. I still have a lot of cleaning up down there to finish up, so I'm going to be doing some more fencing and some more beds and stuff now. I had, like I said, I had originally had that platform that I was going to put a small greenhouse on, and I was just going to, redo that one raised bed on the end there. But I decided to replace them all, and now I'm going to put beds all the way across that far end and get the rest of the fencing finished up this year. So there we go, pulling another one out. And luckily all the fence poles except for that one were still in good shape, even though they're about 14 years old. So this pressure treated stuff, you can get good or bad in it. I guess it can go either way. And there you can get a pretty good view of those tractor weights that I bought for the snowblower on my Kubota to put on the front of it. I've actually started using them instead of the weight box on the back of this tractor. I just have my hitch adapter on there, and I plug that 2-inch receiver bar in there, and I put them on, and it makes it really easy to get them on and off. Plus, I'm finding out that these are a lot lower sitting and lower the center of the gravity, and really do help with the loader. They turned out to be just enough weight to make it so you can safely operate the loader with a bucket full. So it's really a late start for the garden this year too, with all this the rain and cold weather that we've had. So it was easy to kind of squeeze this in. So I got the posts and fence all out, and then there was just that one raised bed. That was all strawberry plants originally when we moved in. I planted them there when I built this fenced-in area, and it turned out that the chipmunks and squirrels love strawberries. So the minute that the strawberries started turning red, they'd be gone. You'd see all the squirrels running around the trees with chipmunks in the spring. I mean, you see them run around with strawberries in the spring, and so I decided to give up on strawberries. I didn't really want to mess with covering them and stuff, and I'm just gonna dig up all this. This is just topsoil and compost mix. I'm going to just dig this up and throw it down in the raised beds too to help fill a little bit. I'm still waiting. I had a guy who was supposed to be bringing me a load of compost and topsoil mix for filling the raised beds, but he was supposed to show up over a week ago and he never did, and looks like all the rain has delayed processing the compost. So in the meantime, I'm trying to get this done. And there you can see my wife's bulbs have started coming up, but they're really taking a beating with all the high winds we've had lately. So many of them are just coming up, opening up, and then breaking off in the wind. And the tulip should be up next. So I got all that fence down from up there, so now it's time to start fencing in along this old coverlet. And originally that was going to be a greenhouse also, but it was just too big for my needs, so I decided to use it for my firewood. And now I'm looking for a big tarp to throw over the top part of it, and I'm going to put some gutters on it and a big rain barrel, one of those 300-gallon barrels in the back, to use it to try to catch rainwater from my garden. So I just wanted to get this fence back in here so no animals can sneak in through the side anymore there as the wood comes out. So this is just recycling all the parts. You can see I've got the 2x4s and stuff, and this is just an old pressure treated frame that I had built a while ago to hold that tent structure. So working on that, and some little things like the mounts for the frame were a little bit big and in the way, so I just took a grinder and was able to remove them. And there you can see I've got the beds all in, and I've got the fence all up, and finally got a nice warm dry day without wind to throw some chicken wings on the grill, and they're my favorite with the sweet baby Ray's sauce on them. So I did enjoy some of them, and these little bees have just been going crazy with all the high winds we've had lately. And finally I did move my plants outside to start hardening them off, but you can see the peppers are really all full of buds and little peppers now. So I did start them a couple weeks too early, and I'm a little bit late getting them outside to start hardening them off, but they're out there now. So hopefully they'll be going in this week with the weather forecast turning around. There's the eggplants. They look pretty good too. Tomatoes are kind of a mess. They've grown together into things. They just got too big. And some of the plants I didn't have under the grow lights. You can see they're off to a rough start, but they'll catch up. So all these plants should be going in the next video that I'll be making. Hopefully I can get a load of dirt and compost. Everybody's still closed around here too with this state shut down, so it's it's delaying everything. But anyhow, I just thought I'd show you that the plants are all doing good. And then I've got another bed I'm going to be starting here with some potatoes. You can see I've got all the 8 beds installed now. And they should have been gone in a couple weeks ago, but it was too cold and they started growing in the root cellar. So these are leftovers from last fall's potatoes. So I'm just going to plant one bed full and see what I get out of them. I'm not sure if it's too late to put them in or what, but they still look good. So I'm just going to put a couple rows with 4 across, and then I'm just going to push them down in the dirt. You don't need them real deep. Come back to a little bit more dirt on top of them and pack it down, and then I'll just mulch as they start coming up. And there's my garlic that's coming up and doing pretty good. And this is my one little Spanish onion that survived. I put them all out when I put the shallots in, and they all died. Only one survived. We got a lot of 20-degree weather after that and stuff, which is kind of unusual for this time of the year. So looks like I'm only going to have one Spanish onion after all that work. But anyhow, I'm decided to just fill the rest of the bed up with some more shallots because I still have a bunch of them left over from last year to use up and use as seeds. So I'm just throwing a couple of them in there. And I did put a couple pieces of garlic in I had that were growing in the basement also, and a flower. And then I went back and started building the trellises for my raised beds. Each of the beds on the end here is going to have a trellis for the cucumbers this year. So I just used a couple pieces of conduit and some wire for that, and I'll show you in a second. And next I'm going to throw some carrots in another bed. These Cordura carrots we tried last year for the first time, and now there's another new one, are the sweetest carrots ever. So I've got them in a couple different kinds I'll be planting. And I like this little plastic planting thing. I don't know if they sell them anymore or not, but I got this years ago, and it's great for fine seeds like carrots and lettuce and stuff like that. Got little size adjustments that you control. You can control how many come out, and you know, you can get them to, even with the wind blowing, you can get them kind of put right in a row pretty easily with it. So, you know, that's something, if you can find one, I'd really recommend. And then I'm just going to cover it with a little bit of soil. And carrots do take a real long time to germinate, so you have to be patient with them. The good thing about this is when you're done, you can put the rest of the seeds back in the pack, no problem, no mess. And then I got another bed here. I'm just going to throw in some of the Detroit red beets. We like them. We make pickle beets out of them, and we can some of them, so I'm just going to do some rows. And you can see the raised beds, I always do tightly spaced rows, and never really had a problem. So the beet seeds I like to try to spread by hand, though, because if you get too many of them, they grow multiple beets out of one seed, and it can be really a lot of thinnings. Got some beets in, and then save some of the Black Panther edamame beans to put in here. And these seeds are 2 years old. I saved them 2 years ago. So I'm just going to spread extra in there for now, and then I'll thin out the ones that don't germinate. But this is our favorite. I tried a giant one last year, and I just wasn't happy with it. So I got some of these beds going, and I'm still got to get over and get some loads of gravel and stuff to finish up, and still have to finish some more raised beds on the end. But, you know, basically you can see where I'm at now. And then I'm working on building the rest of those trellises, and I had some 3/4 inch conduit laying around. I just cut them to 8-foot lengths, and then I just used my fence pole pounder that I had made for a while back, and pounded them down in the ground about 1 foot there, plus 1 foot for the raised bed. So I wound up with leaving 6 foot up above there. And I pounded them in on each side, and I set the spacing on them so it would be the exact wire grid on the fence that I was using. I'll show you in a little while. I just took a couple measurements as I was going along here too, to make sure they were all going to come out even height in the end. So then I had some, this is a fencing that I used for around the outside that I had left over. So I measured some pieces that were a little bit under 6 foot, and actually I had to cut the first row of wire off, so I had the wires sticking out like that. And you see I've got it horizontal facing. And then I just lined up the grid on the one post there, and wrapped those wires sticking out around, and then twisted them good on the other side. And you have to make sure you don't have any sharp pieces sticking out when you're done, so it does take a while to twist them and stuff, but this was the easiest way for me to fasten them, and they're, you know, really thoroughly fastened, and it does take some time, but a big old pair of pliers, and fence is fairly thin and easy to bend, so as long as you get it twisted around and just get the little sharp ends that are sticking out there, make sure that you pound them in against the post so you don't get cut later or caught. So there it is. I just went down one side and, you know, got everything all straightened out as much as I could, and just kind of worked the wire flat as I was going. Then you can see the other side, it winds up on the grid, so I'm just going to cut off what's left of the fence there. And I have the the wire tab sticking out there to wrap around and lock onto the other side now. So pretty easy to build, and I think these should stand up to cucumbers. I'll find out over time, but they seem to be fairly rigid. And there it is, the next one done. So now I just have 2 more to build. And as I said, I'm still waiting for a load of compost and topsoil mix. So I don't know when I'll get that. And a mourning dove actually decided to make a nest up in our gutter there, you can see, and it's got babies up there now, so they're right outside our door. And here's that kale that I started a long time ago and moved outside, and this is really loving all that cold weather and snow and everything, so that's doing good. We'll be eating that soon. The later lettuce is loving the cold weather. The spinach didn't do so good this year. Everything's slow at growing because we didn't have much sun. And here's last year's parsley coming back. And here's that lettuce that I had started indoors and moved outside. You can see we've got some really nice heads just about ready to start picking. So we'll be eating that starting this week. So this is just sort of where I am now. And you can see everything's starting to grow. We've got some leaves starting to show up on trees and stuff now. And they're saying that the jet stream's going to shift this week. So we start getting some warmer weather and hopefully less rain. You can kind of see down at the bottom of my hill, the whole area is flooding. I can't even get down there and start mowing and cleaning up yet. But anyhow, I just thought I'd, do an update at this point and show you that we are starting to see signs of springs now, and the everything's going good, and the beds are all in. So I just kind of like to thank Northern Tool for sending out those first 6 beds, and it's nice to have warm weather to get the plants outside and be able to get the grill fired up and, starting to feel a little bit like spring now. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.